Hey, welcome everyone. We are live and we're using a different streaming platform. Today we're using Streamlabs. Great. We're trying that out, opposed to our traditional restream. So far, so good. People can see us, people can comment. We could do a lot of cool new things with this. Like the other night I did a little test broadcast where we could show videos,
Wow.
Like here's Baltimore.
That's nice.
Yeah, there's so we can show cool little videos like that. Lightning.
Is that $4.95?
It could be. No, not really. It's probably it looks like a highway in Europe or Asia, actually.
Yeah. I don't think $4.95 is that complex.
Yeah, I don't think it's, that's way too complex.
Yeah, the mixing bowl.
Yeah, so we got, so this is the kind of the cool part. We can show videos and stuff like that. This is also downtown Baltimore. I think
wow.
It can't be Baltimore. Hold on. That's too nice to look. I mean,
that looks like Asia, somewhere in Asia, I think.
Yeah, nothing against Baltimore. That's not too nice for Baltimore.
Yeah.
So, the company that owns StreamYard just agreed they're basically shutting down or selling off their other operation, their main thing, which is a thing called Hop-In, which was like for events and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But apparently pre-pandemic they were fine. They were kind of doing okay. But the post-pandemic they were just struggling, and I think it's a European operation. But so I think apparently StreamYard will be their only property. So cross our fingers that I think StreamYard brings in money. I mean
and here's the thing, StreamYard's what I like about them is you can do other stuff with it. You could do what you call webinars. And that's kind of what really kind of intrigued me about it. StreamYard, great. And StreamYard, if anyone there is watching, would be happy to be sponsors of your product. We will take your money gladly. So, and then we've got what do you call a lot of stuff happening this week. And Don, you missed last week when old Hunter Biden had his sweetheart plea deal thrown out.
Yeah,
pretty much. And it's just getting better and better, frankly. And I have a feeling, though, if it looks like there's going to be a conviction, Joe Biden's going to be giving him a pardon. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Hunter is a huge headache for Biden and for the campaign. The Democrats, it's a big distraction for what they want to do. I don't know how far this is going to go. I mean, Devin Archer's testimony, I guess it was somewhat damaging, but maybe not the killer shot that the Republicans really wanted on that.
No.
But by and large, I think people are at least coming away with the impression that Hunter, at the very least, was selling the illusion of access to his dad. Whether or not they could actually prove that he actually did that's something else to there. But it just seems that everything that has been said, or any evidence that's been collected so far, shows that Hunter was trying to make money off his father. Whether or not how much Joe really knew about it. But, Biden himself, the big guy has issued some contradictory statements, I think, from going back to 2020 to now about exactly what he knew about Hunter's business dealings and things like that. There is the question as to whether or not, Hunter should have registered under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Lots of clouds hanging over the Biden family. I don't necessarily want to go and say it's the Biden crime family. I just say that Hunter's a very bad apple in this family, and it's good for the Republicans in a sense. I mean, we get a lot of complaints about this is just a witch hunt, and all of this stuff. But what exactly were the hearings when the Democrats had control of Congress on Trump and the impeachment?
On January 6th, those hearings, they were choreographed by a Hollywood film crew. It's like, please, and by the way, how Don, you mentioned how Hunter Biden's a headache for Joe Biden, but I think Joe Biden is quickly becoming a headache for the Democrat Party.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's no
I mean, the fact that you've got the governor of the once great state of California wanting to debate the great state of Florida's governor, on any given day, as he put it, that kind of says something about, why do you want to debate Ron DeSantis? You're not even running for president,
Well, DeSantis said he'll do it, so that's good. DeSantis will get the airtime.
Yeah, I mean, and part of that is just, I think, is also kind of a verbal battle that's been going on between DeSantis and Newsom anyway. Just DeSantis has been very public about just kind of point out the differences between how things run in Florida, the reopening of the economy, how much they were thriving. They're gaining population while California is losing population. Their COVID policies were horrible in California, and it's cost them a lot of money, economically. I mean, Florida has a surplus. California's got a huge deficit. So, there's a lot of ill will, particularly on Gavin Newsom's part. And there probably is a little bit of like, well, if I can do this, and he is in the presidential race, in case Joe falters or something like that, maybe the Democrats can look to me, because they're certainly not going to look to Kamala Harris.
Yeah, that's right. And this is good for DeSantis if it gets him some attention and shows him battling a Democrat in a debate instead of his fellow Republicans, which he'll get lost in. It's a smart move on DeSantis' part.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Dave. I mean, I think part of the problem, that this, the Republican Party has faced this before. It's just that you've got a bunch of people running for president, and they spend a lot of they're tearing each other down, and the Democrats can just sit there and go, yeah, fine. It's like let them beat each other up while we go ahead and try to make inroads and gather votes and do whatever we're doing in the meantime. And when they do that, it kind of serves as some form of oppo research for the Democrats. Well, they don't have to necessarily invest a lot. Republicans are already doing it on their own for the Democrats. So it's much better if the Republicans are in the race, go after what's wrong, what they would do differently. What's wrong with Bidenomics? What's wrong with the Biden department and all of this? Focus on the ills, the problems that the Democrats have given us over the last few years, rather than flaws in the other Republicans at this point. Show the country what you would do as the leader.
Yeah. I mean, there's what do you call? You've got. I mean, I don't know if you saw this, Don, today, but the price of gas is edging up.
I did see it. Yeah, I saw that today when I went to get gas.
I filled up the other day at a Wawa's, and I paid almost $3.50 plus. I think it was like $3.54.
I saw $3.79 today, like $3.79.
$3.54 is getting to be cheap. I mean, gas prices. I mean, we've been. I've been watching this here. Where
as you can see, this is 383 is the national average, 379 is the average amount. But look, in Montgomery County, it's 387, higher than the national average.
Yeah. I mean, that's,
Baltimore City.
Well, I mean, part of that too is that we're paying one of the highest gas
tax in the country.
In the country now. Thank you, Martin O'Malley and the Democrats, for putting that in. Putting that inflation thing in there. Kicker, and that is just killing the gas tax. I mean, it's starting to approach, slowly but surely California levels. I mean, this is how insane it is.
We have probably the second. I think we surpassed New York this year with our gas tax.
I know we're pretty high, because I think aren't we up to like 46 cents a gallon or something like that? And it's just kind of ridiculous. But I know here in my backyard, in essence, that the gas station we were using, in a 10-day span, the price went up 25 cents a gallon. Yeah. And then I noticed in the news, because I saw we have one Exxon just down the street, which has always been kind of on the high side. But last week they crossed the $4 barrier. So they went to 409, and they're at 409 for regular and 429 for diesel on their board. And then I drove by like yesterday or the day before, and that same 4.29 diesel had gone to 4.49 at the station.
Mm-hmm.
But when I saw news reports later on, I said that the price of diesel has surged even more than the price of regular gas. So it's just, yeah. I mean, 340. You know, and that Costco is always a good bellwether for how gas prices are going because they're always going to be one of the cheapest, right? And
Yeah, and I used to fill up at Wawa's for
345
$3.45.
not all that cheap, but it is now. I mean, but 4 or 5 weeks ago that wasn't cheap.
No, I mean I used to fill up at Wawa's for $3.45.
Yeah.
And I thought that was getting a deal there. And here's the thing: is the price of gas. I mean, and they don't understand how this has a trickle down effect. A bad trickle down effect, frankly, because shipping costs more, which means the price of consumer goods are going to go up. Like everything from milk, sugar, and eggs, the prices will start creeping up come this fall, frankly. Because it takes, the price of gas, and it's not going to come, it might come down a little in the fall when they switch over to the fall blend, which is cheaper, but it's not going to drop that much. It'll be maybe 2 cents, 3 cents is what the difference is going to be. But I still think the price of gas is going to be heading north, even then, just because the Biden administration's war on fossil fuels, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I know last week, Don, and even people were talking about hot weather in Arizona is because of global climate change, But, I mean, Don, I think for us in the Mid-Atlantic, the weather's been, with the exception of the last couple of weeks, the weather's been fairly reasonable this summer. It hasn't been stiflingly hot like it has in years past.
We haven't had any like 100-day streaks.
No.
We've had quite a few days in the 90s in our typical, yucky humidity. Yeah. But look at how the weather has turned around in the last, say, 10 days.
Yeah.
It's now kind of in the 80s, low to mid 80s during the daytime. Yeah. And at night it's gone to like 57, 58. I'm
able to keep the windows open all night long. And
it's actually a little chilly at night.
Yeah.
Which is nice. I mean, I go to the gym around 4:30 in the morning. It's like, I'm right at the edge point of where I actually have to maybe throw a jacket on or something like that, because the temperature is it's so cool. But you gotta love that. But yeah, they're over. The media. We know the media is up and overwrought about this whole. They've taken this whole thing as an opportunity to expand on climate change and blame climate change for everything. But as you know, now as the weather starts to cool down a little bit, they're pretty quiet about it, right? I mean, all of that fear mongering, kind of goes away because they don't have that headline story. And like, 90-degree weather, 80-degree weather is not the story. That they can't make a case for climate change at that. And it's like, everybody, it's weather. Weather is variable. We're going. You go from La Nina to El Nino, El Nino to La Nina.
Yes. Don, I got some breaking news here. We've got Miss Thunberg, and she wants to tell us something.
It's all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. You all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Yeah, how dare us, Greta.
Yeah, she's right, though. She should be back in school. What the heck is she doing?
Exactly. Go back to school, Greta. How dare you?
Well, in this whole thing, I mean, look, there's a young girl who's become famous because she's become this, climate
rock star,
warrior thing. It's just like she's not a scientist; she's just someone who just picked up this cause.
Don,
she's a pathetic figure.
She's the new prophet for the global climate change people. Remember, the first prophet was Al Gore, inventor of the internet, and he makes shows like ours possible because of his invention.
But look, you notice with the left, you can do this. You can take these young people, they can go out there and they can pick up on a cause, and they become, viral, sensations. They become international heroes or whatever.
Yeah.
But should a conservative do something on the opposite end of that spectrum, they are
I,
nutcases, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
There's
They're
They're
this.
being abused by parents.
Yeah.
yeah,
There's a
right.
YouTuber. There's a YouTuber. He's like in his 20s. His name is Poncho, and he called out the transgender movement as being a bunch of malarkey. And
Yeah.
he has been attacked left and right by lefty, and he's not even a conservative per se, you know. And all the lefty bloggers are out to cancel. They're basically petitioning YouTube to shut his channel down. I mean, this is the mob. We've gotten to the point of where a mob rule now, we're a mobocracy opposed to a democracy now. It's like, look, I mean, if you look at the indictment, you got a reporter at the New York Times that goes, how, what do you call it? Donald Trump, is all the uneducated masses, people that didn't go to college, they're the ones that are supporting Donald Trump. The cult of Trump is what's up. You have somebody that said, oh, maybe we shouldn't even give him a trial. We just throw him in jail right now without a trial. I mean, these are fascist tendencies, frankly, coming from the left. Let's throw President Trump into jail without even giving him a fair trial. It's like, where are you gonna? I mean, are we gonna set up penal colonies somewhere? Maybe Sea Island, Georgia, or something like that. Or we'll send
it no longer really matters, to the other side about whether or not the charges against Trump, whether or not it's New York against E. Jean, with E. Jean Carroll, whether or not it's the documents case, whether or not it's this January 6th. It doesn't really seem to matter how, whether or not there's a good reason to do this. There's a legal reason to do this. There's a lot of stuff that's being thrown up there that is pretty specious, and that probably wouldn't hold up in a trial. The documents case is probably the strongest case against Trump. Trump is funny though. I mean, he has magnificently parlayed all of this into extra support. I mean, he's way ahead, in the initial polls for the GOP nomination, because he's been able to play the victim card very well. He whips up a crowd very well. And I was at the gym yesterday when they were doing a split screen on CNN where they were showing the motorcade of Trump's motorcade, heading to the airport, Newark. And I'm sitting there, I'm there, I'm like, why do I get this OJ vibe here?
Yeah.
It's a motorcade of Trump going to an airport. It's like, how is that? Why is that big news? Okay, he's flying to DC to for the arraignment. Okay, this is becoming kind of old news now anyway. But do we have to actually cover the motorcade kind of a thing like this? I mean, what kind of journalism is that? I mean, I don't.
If we brought the Bronco back, maybe President Trump should come in a white Bronco next time.
Yeah, I know. And I just feel like it's like just substitute that with a white Ford Bronco. And it's like, hello.
And this is like, I don't even know if Judge Ito's still with us. Maybe they should bring Judge Ito back to do the trial.
I think he is. Yeah, he's still around.
So we can bring back the dancing Itos on and give Dave Letterman his show back. So he can have was it Letterman or was it Johnny Carson that had the dancing Itos? Or actually Jay Leno, I should say.
Jay Leno, probably. It sounds more Jay Leno. But the thing about this is it's the distraction the media wants from Biden because now they just talk about Trump. And so.
The Washington Post did not cover the day after the, what's his name, when we had the hearings on Capitol Hill with Hunter's buddy who testified. There was not a mention on the front page of the Post, the Times, USA Today, any of it. But what were they talking about? The indictment, the Trump indictment. And I'm sorry, the sanctimonious prosecutor here in D.C. goes, attack on our democracy. Don't get so melodramatic, you people. You did nothing when cities burned all summer long in 2020, frankly.
Yeah.
Spare me the vitriol, frankly. It's like, really, if you weren't such a big hypocrite, I might actually say, hey, he's right. But no, you're all a bunch of hypocrites. They had no problems when President Bush, 43, was elected. And for 4 years, they were saying the election was stolen, right? And Al Gore said the election was stolen. I didn't see us bringing him charges up on Al Gore for trying to, thwart an election.
Well,
You know, I mean, what, the president's not allowed to state an opinion that he thinks there was voter fraud in 2020? I
yeah.
mean, this is how petty these people are. You know,
Yeah.
and we are becoming, I mean, this happens in Nigeria or it happens in, you pick a third world country. This is where that's where it would happen. Where people would just say, if, like, let's say the opposition party loses, let's put them all in jail. Let's round them up, throw them all in jail. That is what the Democrats have become. They become, and Joe Biden is now basically a junta, is what he's become.
You know,
I mean, Trump has got to take some of the blame for some of this anyway. Along the thing, it's, you know, it's
But he's
his,
not without blame. He is not without blame. I'm not,
yeah.
I'm not, frankly, I think to be totally frank is, I think January 6th was a bad thing. It was horrible what they did, frankly, but here's the thing. President did not, he wasn't like, encouraging him. Like, he didn't have a rifle out when he had his rally down there and telling everyone, let's storm the Capitol. He didn't say that, and it's not like,
I think that mob made the decision on their own to go and do what they did, and that was a huge mistake. But I mean, Trump should be, he should be outwardly just, condemning those kinds of things, but he doesn't do that. I mean, his long, complaints, just, harping about about losing the election or not really losing the election, was stolen from him. At some point in time, you've just got to get past that. Okay. It's like, you're not changing the result. I mean, it bothers me because it's like, we used to always talk about Hillary, and her, she didn't, she really was in denial about losing to Trump. But
she was in denial losing to Obama too, actually. It's like, Al Gore still hasn't accepted the fact that President Bush, you had liberals on CNN going like, saying that how President Bartlett has more legitimacy than President Bush. And then you had some liberals that refused to call him President Bush. They were calling him Mr. Bush or George. It's like, he's the
Gebhardt
president.
wouldn't remember they tried at the press conference. They had to try to get him to say he is the legitimate president, right? And he kept trying to dance around it everywhere he could.
Yeah, were the Democrats not fueling the flames of revolution in 2000 when President Bush won? I think they were.
Yeah, I
think maybe Tom Daschle and Dick Gephardt should both be brought up on charges.
posthumously, yeah.
Why not? Honestly, that's what we've become. It's like, and these people, if let's say President Bush after 9/11 wanted to go after all those anti-war Democrats, that were criticized. He could have explained. What would they would, it would have been wrong, using the power of the DOJ to go after your political enemies. And these people are doing what President Nixon would. President Nixon was not. President Nixon's DOJ refused to do. This guy has weaponized the DOJ. He has attacked the Supreme Court of the United States, which, until Barack Obama wagged his little finger at the justices, we're nonpartisan. We're basically, out of the whole political fray. But now you got wacko lefties like Chuck Schumer calling for the open assassinations of Supreme Court justice because he disagrees with them on Roe v. Wade. And Roe v. Wade's been overturned, but you can still get abortions in some states. Some states you won't be able to, some states you will. It's gone back to the states, and that's where it should be. The issue is it's a states' rights issue, frankly. If Alabama doesn't want to have abortions, but Maryland wants to have abortions on demand, hell, Maryland might say, hey, if you're sick of your kid at 10 years old, you can still abort him, and we'll be fine. That is how radical Maryland Democrats are. I could see them doing that, Frank. I don't want to give any ideas, but.
Well, one point that's not really mentioned is that in the case of Biden, I think he said today that in terms of the prosecutions of Trump, Biden said, hey, I'm hands off. I haven't gotten involved at all. But the thing is, there's another way to look at this. He is the head of the executive branch. So if he wanted to, he could have told Garland, you're not to bring any charges on.
Of course.
He could do that if he wanted. But he made the decision not to. And that may be, in history, maybe second guessed.
I bet he forgot that he already told him to do that, frankly.
Mm.
It's very possible he just forgot that he already told Merrick Garland, "Don't you dare bring charges on my boy." And Merrick Garland is also abusing the power of the attorney. He is going after uh, Republicans because he was denied a seat on the Supreme Court. Boy, did we dodge a bullet with that one.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you, Mitch McConnell. And I think it's time for you to go home to your old Kentucky home, Mitch.
Yeah.
Time to retire.
Yeah.
I mean, he forced Jim Bunning into retirement.
Oh, did
Senator
he?
Bunning. Yeah, Hall of Fame pitcher.
Yeah.
He forced him into retirement, and that's how he got Rand Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think what we see with the DOJ and everything like that too is just also the fact that Biden really isn't in control of things. I mean, the agenda is being driven by others that have the left that influences him, and then that's what goes on there. And then so Biden has continued to do the bidding of the left, and this is what they want. They want to go after Trump. And so he's saying he's basically like, hands off, let's go ahead and do it and see where the chips fall. I think they're going to wind up being embarrassed on a lot of things because there's just not enough evidence there to convict Trump on this. And in the meantime, Trump uses this to his advantage. I mean, as Dave said before, I mean, all of this Trump stuff sucks up most of the news. And keeps the focus off of Hunter and the ills of Hunter Biden and all the shenanigans that go there. But every day as we get closer to the true election cycle, where you're going to start having, where eventually you'll start having presidential debates and vice presidential debates and other things. There's there's not going to be a place for him to hide at that point. The smart Republican, whether or not it's Trump, DeSantis, or whoever the nominee will be, there's a lot of stuff there to hammer away at the Biden administration on, and they better do it. They better take advantage of that, because not even a liberal moderator will be able to duck too much of that, I think, in the end.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, Joe Biden's being protected by the Democrats they're not, he's not going to show up for any debates with RFK and Marianne Williamson, friend of Oprah's, for presidential debates, which I think, I think he should debate RFK and Marianne Williamson, just like I think President Trump should be at the debates, frankly. And
well, I mean, I think the difference though is that Biden is the incumbent; he's the presumptive nominee. Why do you give any impetus to your opponents? I mean, RFK is so far back; it's not even going to be. It's not even a contest.
But I know he's around 20%, though. That's like
Yeah, but against the incumbent, that's nothing. I mean, that
but
20% in a divided field like the Republicans have, you're still in the race. But
remember Eugene McCarthy.
Trump, I think I would love to see Trump go ahead and be a part of the debate, but I don't know whether or not he wants to, because I mean that's the other thing is that I think you've got Chris Christie and a few others. They'll be loaded for bear. I mean, Chris Christie is I don't think he's
really very
he can win this thing, but he knows that he's getting enough media attention that he can help take Trump down several notches and open the path for someone else like DeSantis or Scott or somebody like that.
And I think we've got Mike Pence is actually not Mike Pence. Governor DeSantis is actually doing a really good job. He's kind of tacked away from I'm not woke to actual policies, and that's we need to show the contrast. We can't just say he's bad, because we did that in 1996, if you recall. Bill Clinton's bad, and Bob Dole had no real substance. I mean, I love Bob Dole, but he had no substantive policies or anything like that. And as a result, we know how that movie ended with President Bob. Oh, I'm sorry, not President Bob Dole. Bill Clinton got reelected in '96.
Yeah, I mean, DeSantis has got that learning curve of like, okay, he's been the governor in Florida, so his focus has been on Florida issues, Florida politics.
Mm-hmm.
You're running for president. This is now the national stage. The
Yep.
Florida issues are not necessarily something that plays on the national stage, depending upon what it is. I think you can talk about a good stewardship in terms of you had a surplus, you manage that, you got people to work, your COVID, the policies, you opened up and things like that, thriving. You've got a growing population, that kind of thing like that. But a lot of the things with education, stuff like that, they are more, regionalized, and they're not necessarily something that every single person is focused on. It normally comes down in most elections that pocketbook issue is a key. Inflation is decelerating, but the prices are still considerably higher than when Biden took office. So, Biden, is throwing up a lot of false information about, Bidenomics is working. I found that to be a very kind of a strange thing to kind of, to kind of pin your hat on here. So it's like, okay, we're going to use Bidenomics as our main campaign theme here, so it's working. And
I think Bidenomics is going to be like the mission accomplished banner for him. I think.
You never know. It could. Yeah, you better watch what you say and when you say it.
Yeah,
well, when I read an article this week, it was about Bidenomics. But you know what was missing in that article? And for me, it was glaring, but maybe nobody else got this. He pushed for Build Back Better, and that failed, but that was $3.5 trillion. And that failed. You think that would be a significant thing to put in when you're talking about Bidenomics. It was that massive spending, and it failing is very significant. Because if it didn't fail, I mean, think of what inflation would be.
Yeah.
Today. But actually, the others, they killed it in the Senate.
And, unemployment numbers are still pretty good, but still, there's still that uneasiness and feeling out there that it's gonna get worse. It's not gonna, there's a lot of uneasiness out there, and there's a lot of people who feel it's not getting better.
Well, with gas prices going up, if that continues, it won't. Then it'll
right. I mean, and that's part of the thing. I mean, there can't be about a worse time for gas prices to spike than when Biden's out there going, and Harris are like, Bidenomics is working. You're going to be better off. And I was like, well, we just saw a huge spike in gas prices.
Yeah. And
how does that factor into Bidenomics?
Yeah, and who's hurt the most by high gas prices, high price of milk, bread, and sugar and eggs is middle class people and the working poor and the folks that are on assistance, the poor. And
it's like a regressive tax.
Yeah. And every time I see those commercials for Feeding America, about they got one with this AI woman says, I am a symbol of hunger. And it's like, let's see. Why are so many middle class people going to food pantries now? Maybe it's because they can't afford to live on a middle class salary anymore because of Joe Biden. You need to be making you need to be making six figures plus just to kind of get by these days. And not a lot of people are making six figures. In our area, there are a lot of people that are making six figures because, where we are. But, you go out to Western Maryland, there aren't that many six-figure jobs out there in Western Maryland or on the Eastern Shore. There aren't, like you go to Delaware where Joe Biden's from, or Joe Biden's hometown, Scranton, Pennsylvania, where Lunch Bucket Joe grew up, and not many six-figure jobs there, Joe. They're making probably about $60,000, $70,000. That's on the high end, I bet. And they're the ones who are hurting Lunch Bucket Joe with your reckless economic policies. And now the Fed has raised interest rates yet again. And I think I personally like it because I think I see my savings rates going up and up and up. SoFi is around almost 5% now. For if you open up a bank account with SoFi,
so now those high yielding savings accounts are now technically, above the rate of inflation, right? So you theoretically you should be on the plus side, but we kind of know that the inflation figures
Hmm.
You know, it's hard to pin down. It's like you see a headline number, then you look at the
Hmm.
core number, and you're like, well, you know, maybe on the high yield savings you might be
Hmm.
breaking even, but it depends upon your purchasing habits and what
Yeah.
your expenses are. It's like even a 5% savings rate you may still be falling behind
Hmm.
because of the things that you buy or that you need. Maybe the prices are still going up by 6 or 7%.
And remember, they don't include the price of food in inflation. That's never factored in on the
Right.
inflation
Food
numbers.
and energy are extracted from the core because it's volatile.
Yeah.
But you know, in reality, it's a you know we have to pay that. We have to pay
Yeah.
the gas
Just because you
prices.
don't see it
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's not there. Just
Yeah.
because, you
And
know,
unlike, you know, I mean, gas has probably been more volatile, you know, than a lot of food. I mean, you know, we saw the big spike in eggs, and then that came down, you know,
although
after
high
they were,
gas price, I can see that spike coming
but the
back.
gas prices have been up and down, you know, and you know they stabilized for a little
Hmm.
while, and then now now we're seeing this recent spike. But you know, when you look at it, just you know, how do you say that this is not something that doesn't hurt people overall? That
Yeah.
you know, so yeah, yeah, but and you're right. I mean, Dwight. I mean, I think we all know that people on that lower to middle income scale, you
Hmm.
know, they get socked because the chances are they're not going to get the wage increases to keep up with even you know what the government says inflation is, right?
Yep. And they were struggling even in the good times. And I mean, middle class people were able to live. I mean, dual income household, husband and wife working, both making about $45,000 to $50,000 a year. They were surviving, you
Yeah,
know. But now it's hard to make do on 100,000. I mean, I know, people can say, "Oh, $100,000 is a lot." It's hard to make do on if you're just making $100,000, and you're not taking home $100,000. You're taking home roughly about $80,000. So 20% of that is going away in taxes. You know, and it's one of those things. It's like so it's $80,000. So if you're making $80,000, it's not the same. To make actual 100,000, you can be making at least 120, 125 in that ballpark range to get $100,000 in your pocket, so to speak.
yeah.
And
I mean, and we've got. I mean, you know, the what no one really knows for sure and how this is going to affect the economy is that you know we're getting closer and closer to the student you know loan repayments you know restarting again.
mhm,
Um, it's interesting because you know when I've been reading about this is that you know in theory all this you know this what we've had for 3 year suspension roughly. Uh,
yeah,
you would think that people you know would have at least tried to find a way to get their finances in order and just in case you know set aside that money or whatever.
yeah,
But what they did is a lot of them spent the money
they bought
thinking that
new cars.
thinking that Biden would
Yeah,
get a whole student loan forgiveness and that they wouldn't have to be repaying this. And others went ahead and borrowed even more money on by taking out and so they're going to be even worse off because they have other loans that they didn't have before that. You know, we're going, you know, we're fast, you know, seeing now that things are getting back to a little closer to what life was like, you know, before the pandemic. That you know, the debt that Americans are carrying, you know,
hmm,
consumer debt is skyrocketing. Is going back, you know, all that time, all that government money, all those stimulus checks and things like that have been frittered away. And
Mm.
you know, the government basically was saying, "Here, we're going to give you money. You can go ahead and sock it away." They went ahead and spent that and more, and a lot of people are going to they are going to be worse off than they
hmm.
were before the
And
pandemic.
also, car lenders are also cutting back. I mean, car loans. I mean, they were all pretty much anybody could get a car loan, and you could have a 450 credit score, and still, or even less than 450, and you're still going to get approved for a car loan. You may pay a lot more in interest, but and now they're cutting back because repossessions are going up, and this is only the beginning of the repossession wave that's going to be happening, which is
It just seems funny, you know, interesting to me that I can go back, you know, almost 40 years ago, and you know when I got married, and you know we got a car, and uh, you know we had a car payment like you know most Americans do at the time, and I think it was $90 or
Yeah.
$180 or whatever it is. It's like, try to find a car loan for a 4-year loan where you're only paying that kind of money. I mean, these car loans are now what, $500, $600, $700 a month, and they're for 5 to 7 years. How do you
Yeah.
afford that? I mean, it's just
And
like,
here's the thing. And the price of cars have really, and nobody seems to understand why, price of cars are not what they used to be. You could buy a car for $25,000 back in the 90s, and that would be a good car. You could buy I remember in 1987, you could buy a Cadillac DeVille for $32,000. And speaking of Cadillacs, they're EV. By the way, take a guess what the price of their new EV sedan is going to be.
Mm.
well, I mean, I would assume 50, 60, 70,000.
Yeah, a little more than that. Hey, Don, what did you pay for your first house? The one over by, what was the cost of your first house?
The one that was near the tennis club.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my father bought that house and we rented it back at a cheap rate from him. I think that house, 1985. I think that house was 135,000.
Okay. The new Cadillac EV sedan, $340K for the base.
What?
$340K is the base price.
Who would pay that?
And I just saw that article. I'm like, this can't be right, but evidently, I guess it is. It's on the,
The thing about EVs is that all these auto manufacturers have just basically been, they've been just kind of.
A Bentley is like over. It's almost like 350 plus. Bentley EV.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense with these auto manufacturers. They're falling over themselves to get into EVs.
Yeah.
But the cost, the average cost of the EV is something that most people can't afford. I mean, if you have an EV, either you've been taking out a very expensive loan, or you've got a lot of money, so you can go ahead and afford to buy those cars.
Yes, remember that lunch bucket, Joe? Remember that lunch bucket? Or can I just call you bucket?
It's not a completely free ride either, right? I mean, so you're like, okay, great, I saved on gas.
The tax rebate you get for buying an American-made EV, that just made that Cadillac $340,000. But that's also the base, $340,000. If you want an extended battery, it's just going to go up from there. I mean, I saw a Yukon for $100,000. I went to Sport Chevrolet because I was getting my car detailed this week. I know that's a first world problem, but I went over to the used car lot and they had a used Cadillac Escalade, $100,000, and that was used. 100,000. I mean,
well, we'll see if it gets sold. I don't know. I mean, that's what they're asking for, but I guess
they don't deal on it. I think if we were not in the DC metro area, it would not get sold. But since it's here, I'm hoping somebody will buy it. Because I asked them, how much is the new Cadillac? It was $103,000. That same one new, because they sell Cadillacs, not Sport, and that's $103,000.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's one thing too. I mean, at least until recently, the price between new and used cars was not all that much different. My wife was pointing out, because I mean, that's all we've been doing for the last, I don't know, 10 years or more, is buying, used cars.
Yeah.
So the Lexus, my Lexus, which is a 2017, I think I bought that in 2019 or thereabouts. I mean, it's, my wife she checks the prices just kind of for fun. Yeah. And she says now, to get what we paid like $26,000 or $27,000 for back then is now $10,000 more in the last, and just the price has been pushed up. And it's like, what? I mean, there's no way I'm going to spend $37,000 on a used car. This just gets outrageous. But people, the thing is that people will pay prices because a lot of people need the cars. They need the transportation.
Yeah. I mean, I remember in the 1980s. I remember National Rental Car, which is now part of Enterprise. They used to sell used cars from the rental places. You get about 25 to 30,000 miles on it. Still not a bad deal. they would sell Cadillac DeVilles that were a year old for under $15,000. You know, because then again, a new one was like 32,000. So you were like getting depreciation, but now a year old Cadillac is about the same price as a brand new Cadillac.
It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, Avis, they used to have a used car lot. They always had really good deals on, 1-year-old cars, And now the rental fleets are keeping their cars longer. They used to sell them out every year. They get new ones.
Well, I mean, you think about what happened when the pandemic and everything, just kind of the bottom fell out, is that, they sold off a large part of their fleet. And then when the economy, bounced back, they didn't have enough cars for people who wanted to go travel and rent a car anymore.
Well, yeah. I was talking to the used car manager at Sports Show. He goes, we used to have 800 cars on just the used car side. He goes, we only have about 200. And he goes, if you take, it was actually 250 cars is what they had on the lot. And he goes, if you take away all those conversion vans you see over there that we bought from U-Haul, he goes, we're talking under 150 cars. And I was actually impressed with the selection they had there. They also had brand new Tahoes at the dealership, which I was like, wow, brand new Tahoes, because you don't see those on the lots at a lot of places. They're empty. A lot of when I go to Coons GMC, their lots are pretty much empty of the big SUVs. They don't have any of the, they just got the small and mid-size, and they got a lot of Buicks, there. But yeah, it's ridiculous, and this is all Bidenomics. And by the way, what is with our Pete Buttigieg, our transportation secretary? Is he just AWOL? I mean, we don't hear much from him. We got the airline crisis that are happening. The airline industry is.
Yeah, I think he was a disaster, but he had no real training or background to be Secretary of Transportation. But
that's true. In all fairness, neither did Joe Biden. Is in training or background to be president.
But they didn't think about it. It was just a political appointment, and now you pay the price.
Hey, was Joe ever even a president of like a neighborhood association or anything like that?
Probably not.
I
mean, he was the chairman of a couple committees. I guess he cites that.
Yes. He basically was one of the people grilling Justice Thomas.
Yep.
But we are getting, there's the other issues. I think Biden, he's getting a big help from the leftist media. I mean, I think these guys are so bad they would make Mike Wallace blush. By the way, what do you think, Don?
Yeah, but I mean,
they've always been bad, but it seems like they've gotten from bad to worse.
I mean, look, I think I think they're doing their best to try to protect him, but the problem is that he's been the president, since January 2021. There's things you just can't avoid. There's only so many things you could try to hide, but his mumbling and stumbling, just the inability for him to coherently complete certain sentences or things like that. He's just not very coherent. The legitimate, concerns about his age. I mean, they've covered some things, but at the same point in time, they've also tried to soften or put some nuance to, economic figures to make it look better than it is. They obviously would rather see him get elected than see Trump come back into office. But, Trump coming into Trump, returning to the presidency is no guarantee. We were talking in the pre-show a little bit about, Ron DeSantis has decided to come out and criticize Trump, for his 2020 election claims and stuff like that. And I'm glad. I think
Vice President Pence, he has made some bold moves, as well. And I think Vivek Ramaswamy is the only one that's been going to the mat. I mean, he had he was out there, he did a commercial after the first indictment, and I think he's auditioning
for VP, I guess,
or Treasury Secretary.
He's definitely auditioning for something, because it's like he is totally pandering to the MAGA crowd with everything he's saying. I mean, you've got some of the other candidates out there talking about, maybe they might pardon Trump or something like that or whatever, but I think the Republicans. I think
I went for Vivek to say, I'm going to make Donald Trump my running mate, then I will resign the day we get elected so he becomes president again.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I think what Pence has done has been good. I think, DeSantis, that'll help him. I think you got to get out from under the shadow of Trump. And it's like, win or lose, I mean, there's no doubt there's a lot of the MAGA crowd that hates Pence because Pence wouldn't wouldn't overturn the election, which he couldn't do to begin with anyway.
Yes.
They're convinced that
if Mike Pence had the power to overturn the election, Al Gore would have overturned the 2000 election, frankly.
Yeah.
He had to sit there, as the delegates came and said.
Yeah, and I think Pence is staking out the ground that, that Trump is wrong. I mean, he's wrong about the election, and he's, and all these things, and the criticism, that he heaped on Pence was incorrect and uncalled for. Now, unfortunately, I mean, I think Mike Pence is a pretty stand-up guy.
Yes, I like Mike Pence.
And I would love to see him. I have no problem seeing him as a president of the United States, but I don't see a path for him right now.
No, even though he was a phenomenal governor of the great state of Indiana, and he did so much for the taxpayers of Indiana there, frankly. Just like Governor DeSantis, he's done so much for Floridians. I know he's being criticized now about insurance rates. You live in Florida, it's kind of like you live in a floodplain. Deal with it. Frankly, you're going to be paying higher insurance rates. I do.
Yeah, I mean, Florida and California have, two states have been hit hard by insurance companies pulling out, but the cost of fixing the damage caused by the storms or the wildfires, depending upon where you are, it is tremendous, and so you can't ask the insurance companies to lose money, and going in there, and they've already lost a lot of money, providing coverage. So why shouldn't in a free market they could why shouldn't they be allowed to pull out? Now that puts the burden on the remaining companies or state insurance fund, which is not going to be as good a coverage as a private insurance company, but this always, there's always part of this thing too, where certain things are like, I guess you were just saying floodplain, but people in California, they go and they build a house deep into the mountains, into a forest, where you can't actually, where there's no water, for a fire truck, there's no fire hydrant and you're miles away from a fire station or something like that. It's like, okay, look, you decide to do that, you're taking on a lot of risk on that. Don't expect an insurance company to cover you for making that decision. They were probably pretty generous for actually covering you to begin with. And if they do want to cover you and they want to charge you $15,000 to help mitigate the risk, don't complain. You chose where you live.
Yeah. It's like those people who live right on the water, right? There are people that live right on the water in Florida, and they're right in the smack path of any hurricane, tidal wave, high tides.
Yeah, look, there's a trade-off, right? I mean, there's a trade-off for doing that. I mean, it's like, I look around and I'm like, there's no way I would ever live, in like Tornado Alley and anything like that. It's like, why, I don't care how cheap the house is. The fact that it could be wiped out by a tornado, it's like, no, thank you.
Yeah. And here's the thing. It's like, I'm in Florida. I am far away from the water. As a result, my insurance rates are not that horribly bad. Well, they're bad. They're bad, but my property taxes aren't that bad. Well, in Montgomery County, I got a higher property tax, high income tax, state income tax. Florida, I don't have a state income tax. I don't have a high property tax. So it's a trade-off. I'd pay more for insurance, which I probably will next year,
Look, I mean, we keep having these storms. We just had one on Saturday that took down a lot of trees throughout the DMV. Yeah. And there was a father that was killed. He was in the shower in his home, and when a big tree fell in there. And it's like, see, this always goes back to my thing about, I know how much Americans love trees and they love the shade that big trees can provide, but there's also the danger that due to certain erosion factors, or if you don't actually actually do maintain your tree to make sure it stays into the right ratios and things like this, that yeah, it'll become, it could, become something that'll fall over. How we have a lot of
Hey, John,
damage.
Greta's back. She wants to say something about the trees.
You have stolen my dreams, my childhood, with your empty words. Yet, I'm one of the lucky ones.
I don't know what this is about this girl.
Yes, Greta Thunberg's views on your anti-tree fall. And here's
Well,
the,
I don't know if you saw that thing about from our friend Dennis Melby, and he apparently he just had some trees fall, and he just had the crew come through there and remove it, and yet another tree fell, and this time it fell across his driveway, and he's like, oh, it's like, well, those are the things. I mean, you want the beauty of the shade trees. That's
yeah,
fine. That's a choice you make, but understand there can be consequences. I mean, I guess nothing fell on his house, and that's good for Dennis. But the fact that when the trees fall over on your
yeah,
property, it's going to cost you a lot of money to
yeah.
get
I
rid
mean,
of
that's why when I moved into my house, one of the first things I did was I had like 7 gigantic oak trees. I took out like 5 of the 7, frankly, just because I don't want the ones that were close enough. I don't want to follow my house. And then over the years, the last 2 oak trees started dying, so I had to take those out too. And now I've put in evergreens.
I like Craig. That's funny.
Mm.
But Dwight, you mentioned the old house that we had
Yeah.
when Young and I got married. So when that house was built,
Mm-hmm.
before we occupied it, it had an old, I don't know if it was an oak tree or whatever it was, but it was a big, it had a huge trunk, and that tree probably was no more than 15 or 20 feet away from the house in the front yard, right? And before we got into that house, we had told the builder, we says, get rid of that tree. And they were incredulous. They're like, you want to get rid of the tree, but it'll provide you shade. And so I'm thinking, like, I just see it as a hazard.
That's what air conditioning's for.
And what happened? We had other houses in the neighborhood who had trees that were similarly distanced from their houses, right? And then was it Hurricane? Was it Irene or something like that? Isabel or whatever?
Isabel
We had come through, and my neighbor 2 doors down, tree came down in the front of his house and crashed all the way through his porch and the front part of his house. It was like, I thought, yeah, could have been me coming through, my kid's bedroom or something like that.
Yeah. It's
So,
like, and I like trees. Okay, don't get me wrong. I do like trees. They're delicious.
you're eating trees?
No, I'm not actually. But anyways,
Plant-based nutrition, right?
exactly. Yeah, right. And you know me, I'm a vegetarian, but I'm not a big fan of many vegetables.
Yes,
I do like my bread, cheese, and ice cream and stuff like that. That's one of my biggest issues with Chinese food, by the way. Like, if you want vegetarian Chinese food, it's all a bunch of vegetables. There's no bread, there's no cheese, there's no butter.
True, yes.
That's why I'm not a fan.
Cheese. Have you ever heard of Chinese cheese, Dave?
There is no
Chinese fondue restaurant.
Yeah, actually, Indian restaurant. There's some Indian restaurants that will have Chinese stuff in there, though. And I'm like, why? I mean, Indian food has at least butter and stuff, and you get the bread, But there's again a clear lack of cheese in Indian foods, and I don't really care for that Indian cheese they use, which I think if they switch to mozzarella, it tastes so much better.
I do need. So speaking of Indian food or just Indian culture in general, it's like, so what about what would Indians say about trying to get rid of cows to reduce methane gas and emissions, right?
Well, depending on who you ask, but I'd say that's cows is a good source of livelihood for a lot of folks in India. You got micro dairies all over India where they'll take the milk to a co-op and they'll make good money on that. And when you take away the cows, you're just increasing poverty, frankly. So no, I think most people there would be hell bent on no, save the cows, so to speak. Don't have a cow, Joey. Because I know the enviros are like they're coming after the water heaters. They're coming after, you know, when are they? I'm waiting for them to start coming after backyard barbecue hibachi grills. You know.
Well, don't give me any ideas.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
really
I know.
seriously. I mean, with Joe Biden, as long as Biden stays in office, that's another negative just right then and there. It's just every single screwy regulation. I mean, we're not going to be able to do diddly squat.
They're coming after gas-powered dryers. You know, I've got an electric dryer, but still, gas-powered dryers in a previous home had a gas, and it does dry clothes a lot faster than the electric dryers do. The gas-powered ones. And here's another thing about the water heaters. The electric water heaters, you know how like when you have a hot water tank, it gradually goes cold? Not electric, it goes like that. It goes from hot to cold. There's no in between, so to speak.
Yeah, you know, and the thing too is it's just that with you know this whole gas electric debate is just the left is trying to convince America that this is the best way because it will reduce emissions, as if producing electricity is completely emissions free, in the way that we do it, and that doesn't. They just keep throwing up these fallacies and these lies on us. So,
yeah.
What is that YouTube thing?
Yeah, Craig, what's that link? Tell us what that link is. And is that the Greta Thunberg?
Or is this a follow-up to having lots of trees?
Yeah. Or is it a woman that goes there and cries for all the trees? Chris Plant does that a lot.
Yeah, Greta cuts a sympathetic figure. I mean, that's there's no doubt about that.
Oh, rush the tree. Okay, there you go. And that's it's like the enviros are. We got the you know what it is. It's like I mean, people are familiar with Batman, the Arkham Asylum. The people running are basically the people that are in the asylum at Arkham are running it now. And it's not a pretty sight. I mean, these people that are going to come after everything. I mean, I'm waiting for them to come to. They're going to come to. I mean, they already think, having too many children is a bad thing. Oh, you're just such a careless person having 3 children. How dare you have 3 children? How dare you have 1 child? Do you really need to bring another child in this world? If you recall, one of my old favorite shows, All in the Family. There was a whole thing about Gloria thinking she was pregnant after she had her son Joey, and her husband's, you got to get the, basically he was saying, hey, you got to abort this child because we don't want to. We agreed we're not going to bring in any more children into this world, And I'm thinking like, what, it's like, I don't know, it's just sickening, frankly. But we are at an extra innings, so let's get to final thoughts. Let's start with you, David. Final thoughts.
Well, thank you for inviting me up to Maryland last night. I had a good time, and it was a nice area and a good group of folks. And tomorrow I'm in Norfolk, so I got to get up early in the morning to.
Oh, you're gonna go visit Governor Allen out there while you're out there?
No, I was thinking of dropping him a line that I'm going to be down there, but no. I think
he's in Ohio right now, or because he's been being a road warrior. He's doing a trip right now. I saw pictures of him in Ohio at one point.
Oh, okay. He travels a good bit. Well, their speaker in Norfolk was supposed to be Thelma Drake, the former member of Congress, but she canceled, and so last minute they asked me, and of course I said yes. But I jokingly said that I always wanted to one day replace Thelma Drake, and so I guess I'm But that's it for me, and good talking to you guys.
Yeah. Don, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Interesting study that showed that high school boys, seniors, are becoming more conservative, while with girls are becoming more liberal. Part of that they attribute to the fact that men are under attack so much, is that it's actually turning these kids into defending it. And you can see that. I mean, and then the feminists are having a much bigger impact on these young girls and everything like this. But we don't, whether or not that'll pan out in any future elections, and whether or not these people will actually be politically active. I mean, we know that the Democrats keep trying there are different schemes to attract the younger people who supported Obama but didn't necessarily support Biden as a whole. And I think with the student loan issue and and just the way the economy has performed since Biden took office, I don't think there's a lot of young support there. He doesn't have, Biden doesn't have the same kind of young person magic or whatever attraction that Bernie Sanders did. Bernie Sanders was able to motivate those kids.
Yeah, which is a little weird, I thought.
Joe Biden can't, do that. And I do think that young people will look at Joe Biden and think it's like, you watch him as even they're probably like, yeah, he's too old. Like, I can't vote for somebody who I don't know, how competent he will be going forward, because he certainly hasn't been all that competent up to this point in time. The Republican PACs released their fundraising figures through June 30th, and Ron DeSantis doing well that way, fundraising wise. Trump's raking it in as well. I do have an issue with the $40 million that one of his PACs spent. Yeah, funny, Greg. The PAC spent on Trump's legal defense. I don't think that that's how the PACs raise the money to say, by the way, we're going to devote most of your money to Trump's legal defense, because there seems to be no end to the legal fees that are going on there. If Trump is really as wealthy as he claims to be, he should be shouldering some of that as well. I don't like this idea of, if you're going to set up a legal defense fund, set up a legal defense fund, see who contributes. If the small guys want to do it, go ahead, and whatnot. Yeah. Donald Trump's supposed to be this uber wealthy guy, and he's grifting off a PAC to go pay his legal fee. That kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Maybe it's just me, but that's kind of the way I feel about that. And then just this report today about the United Auto Workers, it's time for them to negotiate a new 4-year contract with the automakers. And so they're looking for a 46% increase over the next 4 years. 20% would come immediately when the contract is signed and agreed to, and then the remaining would go over the remaining 3 years. I don't see how they're going to get that. It's definitely, they're aiming high. No doubt inflation plays a factor into why they put up such a huge number.
Inflation plays into everything. Look at California. I think that you've got some of them that want to raise the legal steel limit from $1,000 to $2,000, because what can you really lift for $1,000 for nothing these days? It's criminal. So they want to raise it to $2,000 so these folks can lift better stuff.
But as we were talking earlier about the price of cars, the UAW gets, say they get a 25% increase or something over the next 4 years. That the amount of money, whatever the benefit package is, the total package that they get comes in at, car buyers are the one who are going to be picking up the bill.
Yeah,
right.
They used to say UAW.
If you think your cars cost a lot now, wait till this contract gets into effect, whatever it'll be. And there's always the possibility that if the UAW doesn't get what it's want, they'll go on strike, and that'll create another problem.
And something, I say we break up UAW. Frankly, they're too big. They need to be broken up. Frankly, and I think Hollywood's about to break on that. They're about to cave. I think the studios are about to cave on the strikes. The SAG and SAG and the Screen Actors Guild. The strike against the studios. I think.
The question is there who holds the greater power there? The actors and the writers who provide the content and for the programs, or the studios, who do make money off the programs, but not all. But they also fork over money for programs that don't make money, because they have when they do the pilots, and some their new programs will be a flop,
or they just shelf movies altogether, like Batgirl by. Is it what channel is it on? Is it on Comet TV? Let me know what station, so I may go watch it after this.
I think it's on the Bat Channel.
Oh, there you go. No, it's not on the Bat Channel.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah.
That makes me wonder if there shouldn't be a channel devoted to Godzilla type.
They should. You know, there used to be an online streaming service called Crackle.
Right on board.
No, they had this online streaming service called Crackle that had every single Godzilla movie you could watch. Actually, HBO Max does have that. You can go onto HBO Max and see the classic Godzilla era. You know, by the way, Godzilla King of the Monsters, the black and white. I'm not a big fan of that one. It's a little too. It's a little too dark, frankly, if you ask me.
I'll give you one last comment, and then I'll turn it over to you, Dwight. So
Sure.
as much as it pains me to say this because I'm not an Orioles fan, but I do want to praise the Orioles for their great play on the field this year. First place team, doing well. I don't know that it's a team that's built to last, in the playoffs more than the first round,
Right.
but still they've done very well. I still question whether or not the Angelos family is willing to go ahead and lock down their young stars, but our mutual friend, the Code Man, he doesn't seem to be worried about it because they have such a good farm system. But you can't lose too many of these young people. There is a synergy and that goes on with these guys. And if you lose them to other teams eventually, then will you find the same person that has the same?
Don, it's Orioles magic. That's what it is. It's Orioles magic.
Yeah, I mean, I posted the video of the song.
Yeah, that's what this is. Yeah, see. But we can't play it all because otherwise we get those copyright strikes. Although this should be a public domain song, frankly.
Something magic happened.
That's right. That's about all we've got, and we can play before we get a
Great Earl
copyright
Weaver.
strike. The Earl of Baltimore.
Yeah. So anyway, congratulations to the Orioles. They're doing well. They didn't, they only made one move for the trade deadline with bringing in Jack Flaherty, but he pitched well the other night.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough to get them through there. I mean, they're in a tough division. I mean, every single team in that division is above 500, which is unheard of at this stage of the season.
They've done a remarkable. This may be their year. They may go all the way.
The problem is, I think the Astros are the best team in the AL, and their injured players are starting to come back, and But don't
the Astros cheat though?
That was 2017 trash can. I mean, they just traded back for Justin Verlander. I mean, that's the guys his last 5 games before coming over, he had a 1.49 ERA. The guy's on fire. It's exactly what Houston needs. Yeah, if I had to bet anything at this point in time, as much as I don't even like the Astros, I'd say I say the Astros are the odds-on favorite to make it to the.
But remember, the Dodgers were like the best team in baseball last year, and they didn't make it to the series. They got knocked out in the first round.
Things will happen, but the Astros are just a darn good ball club all the way around, and and they've hung. Despite all the injuries, they've hung right in there, and they're just right nipping on the heels of the Rangers, who have just slipped a bit, giving them enough room for the Astros to take them over. I mean, we've got just under 2 months to go here in the season.
Yeah.
So anything can happen. Baseball is a great game.
Yeah.
Anything can happen there. National League, you could say, yeah, the Braves are killing it. Will they do it? But the Dodgers are playing great. So you never know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
it. That's it. My final thoughts are a couple things. One, very important. October 12th, we are celebrating Governor Ehrlich in the state of Maryland. We're doing our salute to Governor Ehrlich. Come on down. Early bird rates end August 16th. So get your tickets now before they go up to $150 a head. Tickets are right now $100. You can get a table for mere $900, below $1,000, and I try to go to an MDGOP event and that's get a table for under $1,000. Not going to happen, but it is happening this time. So you get a table, and if you're a Central Committee or a club, you buy the table for $900. resell the tickets at $100 a head, and you make a $10 profit on every ticket sales. Frankly, great idea. And let's show Governor Ehrlich some of the love. He's been out there campaigning for all the candidates running, and if Governor Ehrlich did a fundraiser for you guys, candidates running, I'm talking to you. You need to do a sponsorship at the very least, or a table, or at least buy a VIP ticket, frankly, and show the governor the support he showed you when he did a fundraiser for you last year, or the 2 years prior to that. That's coming up October 12th, and it is going to be at the BWI Hilton. A lot of people are already in there right now. They're buying tickets and stuff like that. A lot of smart people, because we are fiscally responsible, are taking advantage of the early bird rates. So go to mdgop.org and take advantage of the early bird rates for the salute to Governor Ehrlich. Other final thoughts is Montgomery County. They have lowered the speed limits on every single road I can think of around here. And you know what they've done right where they lowered the speeds? They've added speed cameras. And Montgomery County is, it's all about public safety. No, it's not. If it's about public safety, why don't you put cops there so you give a ticket and you get points for it? You don't get points for these speed camera tickets. It's just a cash cow to fund the radical left's radical agenda in Montgomery County. And how much money does the owners of the cameras get out of the $50 fines that they're sending out on these tickets? That's the real question. What do we have, tickets for tots now? Speeding tickets for tots. They're using that to bankroll education. And pot's been legal for a little over a month, and it is disgusting. I go running in Rock Creek up Beach Drive, and you know something? I smell pot. It's disgusting. It really, cigarette smoke is bad, but this is just as bad. It throws you off your stride. It's an idiotic law. We legalized marijuana in Maryland. Everyone feels they're all hip and cool about it, but be a little considerate. Smoking in your own damn houses and not outside in the public, frankly. Even though they say it's illegal, but I don't think they're really enforcing any of that stuff. But hey, I smell it driving down the interstates. I'll smell that from other drivers. So that's my rant. My final thoughts. So when you're driving through Montgomery County, slow down unless you want to pad Mark Elrich's wallet, frankly.
Hey, Dwight, let's just also say, too, our thoughts and prayers are with Katja Bullock, too.
Absolutely. Yes, our thoughts and prayers with our friend Katja Bullock. People who know her, she's been a stalwart in the Montgomery County, in Maryland, and national politics. Thoughts and prayers for Katja Bullock and her family. And with that, see everyone next week. Good evening.
See you then.